There's one question I find myself asking on a nearly daily basis this year with this Yankees team. And it's a question that I'm sure a lot of Yankees fans, a lot of Yankees players, a lot of Yankees executives, everyone in Yankees universe is asking themselves. Where the is rock bottom? Typically, I like to start these episodes with a joke. So here's a joke. Here's the Yankees record this year. How's it going, everybody? I want to start this episode by wishing a special happy 60th birthday to my personal favorite Yankee of all time. A guy who, if I was running the team, would have been the Yankees manager, the 2020 National League Manager of the Year, Don Mattingly. Don Mattingly was known as the Hitman, also Batman and Donnie Baseball. He was just a guy who was deadly at the plate. He had some back injuries later in his career, but during his prime, he was as good as it gets. He won the 1985 MVP, drove in 145 runs, hit 35 home runs. He set the major league record for grand slams in a single season in 1987 with 6. He also homered in 8 consecutive games. He was the Yankees captain, and he retired after the 1995 season and missed out on the dynasty. But to me, there's never been more of a true Yankee than the mustached one, Donnie Baseball. The Yankees' recent defensive struggles at first base have highlighted how important it is to have a slick defensive first baseman, something they don't have right now. Even when Luke Voit comes back, he's average at best. But Don Mattingly was as slick as they come over there at first base. He would field anything hit his way. He would pick every bad throw thrown his way. He had a great arm. He would make that great over-the-shoulder catch where he's running into foul territory. And if somebody was trying to tag from third, he would turn around and he would nail that runner at home. The Yankees have not had a great defense this year, especially at first base. You've had to move your best defensive middle infielder, DJ LeMahieu, over to first base, which weakens the middle of your infield. I'm not sold on Rougned Odor being a great defensive player, so we'll see how it works out, but I do miss Don Mattingly and his slick hands over there at first base. As I mentioned in the cold opening, the Yankees are 5-10. It's the worst start that they've had in some time. Now, teams can come back from this. The Nationals, just a few years ago, had a really slow start and came back to win the World Series. The Marlins in 2003 came back and won the World Series after a really slow start. We saw the Rockies catch fire in 2007 down the stretch. They made it all the way to the World Series, though they lost to the Boston Red Sox. So teams can overcome slow starts, but typically there's some kind of a spark that needs to be added to the team. Sometimes it can come via new players being added to the roster. In 2005, the Yankees started off 11-19, but then they called up Chien-Ming Wang, and they called up Robinson Cano. They had Aaron Small. They went out and got a couple of pitchers that were kind of hanging on, and they did really well. So the Yankees had to shuffle things up. Sometimes you need to bring in external factors. The Yankees ended up going to the playoffs that year. They won the division. A-Rod won the MVP. That didn't hurt. In 2003, the Marlins made a change at manager midway through the season, bringing in Jack McKeon, and he brought in some old school baseball and took that team to the title. So a managerial change can really spark the energy. And I think that's something that's overlooked in baseball because it doesn't show up in a box score. It doesn't show up on baseballreference.com, but there's something to chemistry. There's something to energy. The energy of a team, the way they gel, the way they come together. You need a mix of personalities. You need guys in there who are having fun. Everybody can't be deadly serious, and everybody can't be laid back and not really care. Aaron Boone strikes me as the type of guy who would be a great assistant coach, a great bench coach, a guy who can be your buddy, who can converse with the players and find out what's bothering them, who can go out with the players after the game and not feel like one of the coaches. He can feel like one of the guys. He's a likable person. But that's not necessarily what you need from the manager. I feel like the most crucial thing that a manager needs, the most crucial characteristic, is being battle-tested, having experience. And granted, I would have hired Don Mattingly to manage the Yankees without any experience, but maybe I'm biased because he was my favorite player. But somebody like a Buck Showalter, or like a Joe Torre, or like a Terry Francona, guys who've been through it, not only winning, but losing, managing in the minor leagues, managing all the way up the chain and not just being a talking head or a puppet for the analytics department, as it seems like Aaron Boone is. No offense to Aaron Boone, but I want somebody who will make their own decisions, who can recognize when a pitcher is not locating and yank him immediately, or recognize when a guy is swinging too hard and go have a word with him to tell him what he can change. You don't necessarily have to be a great player. It helps if you were. Joe Torre was an MVP. Buck Showalter was a pretty good manager. Granted, he's never won a World Series, but he was a minor league manager. He never really played as a big league player. So experience, the right combination of skill sets, the right combination of attitude and personality. And to me, I just don't think that Aaron Boone has it. And I think the Yankees have to reevaluate this decision. I know a lot of people like Aaron Boone, but to me, he's just not getting it done. And this is not a small sample size. I saw a post on Reddit. If you go back to the end of 2019, the Yankees kind of backed into the playoffs. 2020, they had a bad record. They get knocked out in the playoffs by the Rays, and they're off to a slow start this year. This team is not responding to Aaron Boone. Oh, and by the way, they underperformed in 2018 after overperforming with a different manager in 2017. There's enough writing on the wall that I think, and I hate to say it, you got to fire Aaron Boone, and you got to do it really soon. A lot of people are also questioning whether or not Brian Cashman should be getting some scrutiny, and I think he should be. Now, he's had a long career as the Yankees GM. He began in 1998 as the youngest GM in Yankees history. He immediately wins 3 World Series, but he didn't build that team. He came up as an intern, and he was a part of the organization as that team was being assembled. I'm sure he had some input, but he didn't build that team. Really, since those guys started retiring and moving on, 2001 or so, really through 2007, he had the boss and he had the Tampa faction kind of chirping in his ear. But really since 2007, almost a decade and a half, it's been his team. And over that time, they have 1 World Series appearance, and that was because they signed a prime CC Sabathia, and they had A-Rod having the season of his life. But the teams that Cashman has built really haven't had much postseason success beyond the first round a few times. And honestly, I think it's just the way that the team is assembled. We've gone to a power hitting approach, and you can look at the stats and you can say that home runs win. The teams that hit the most home runs typically win. But if you go back even further, go back to an even finer, more granular analysis. Is it just that teams that have really good hitters hit more home runs? Or is it that these guys take a home run or nothing approach every time? I don't think the home run or nothing approach is one that's going to be successful in baseball. I would much rather have a collection of good hitters and have a few really good power hitters mixed in, because the more guys you've got on base, the harder the pitcher has to work. Then you're going to leave more mistakes over the plate, and eventually your bashers are going to run into one. We need more DJ LeMahieu's. We need more guys who are going to fight every at-bat and really make the pitcher work and not just try and lift the baseball. The main takeaway from this video is that Hal Steinbrenner needs to possibly consult with someone outside the organization, outside of the bubble that is the current Yankees winning philosophy, and find out what other options are available to him at the manager position, at the general manager position. What types of players can we get that can change the way this team functions? We need people who are athletic but don't get hurt all the time. You don't need to get a specimen bodybuilder at every position in the lineup. Sometimes an overweight guy who just happens to slice the ball all over the ballpark will do. Sometimes you just need somebody who's got that really great glove work because they grew up in the Dominican fielding with a milk carton. You need those intangibles like Didi Gregorius brought to the team, and I'll give credit to where credit's due there. Brian Cashman brought him in, but he let him go, and he was the heart and soul of this team. You can't do that. You need those guys who supply that energy, that vibration of happiness, of fun, of joy for the baseball game. That's what we need. And if I'm Hal Steinbrenner and I'm spending $200 million for a 5-10 start, I'm not happy. And I'm on the phone to see who out there can help me get this franchise back on track.